What is the most positive thing that has ever happened in your life? 3 years ago, when I was coaching soccer at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. It was in October and the cold was starting to come in to the area, and I started to feel a little fluey for a couple of days during one of our coaching session weeks, and started off just feeling a little bit cold, a little bit of a cough, no big deal. And by the end of the week, I was unable to move my arms and legs and felt like I was being stabbed by several large knives. As the week came to a close, I found myself in a hospital bed being taken care of by nurses and doctors, being fitted with a catheter, which was not pleasurable. And from that point on, being told by one of the head doctors that, in his words, I was not out of the woods yet. Now, when you hear that, even as I can think of it right now, that did not make any sense to me. I did not understand how that could possibly be the case from 5 days prior being on the field coaching our girls. But in reality, what that meant was that I was in deep, deep trouble. So as the ordeal went on, of 7 weeks, I found that I had a number of things that were wrong with me, starting with possible kidney failure, to pancreatitis, to blood transfusions that were not going anywhere, to the point of not being able to sleep lying down and having to sit up only to sleep, to the point of having an echocardiogram which found there was a hole in my mitral valve. That basically meant that I was delivered the news on one morning in my bed in the hospital that I had to have open heart surgery to see if the valve could be replaced or if it could be hopefully repaired. One of the funny things about that time, you could say funny during this horrific experience, was that going into the operating theatre with a mother who was naturally rather upset, I wasn't that scared about the actual operation. I was more concerned about the fact that I forgot to sign the paper that would have taken all my possessions across to my mother. So it's a bit of a funny situation to find yourself in when you're not really worrying about your life at that point in time, more so worrying about what would happen to your loved ones around you. Anyway, the operation was a success. I came out, and from there on, my health began to improve, and I was able to go home and have my mother become a nurse for a couple of months for me, which was very nice of her. From that point on, I got a different outlook on life. I've always been a positive person in the most part, but I would worry about things such as if I was to drop a bottle of milk in the morning and it smashed everywhere, I would get very angry, and then that's going to take on the rest of the day with me being in a bad mood. I would get out of that, but it wouldn't be something that I could just switch off like a light switch. I could also compare that to worrying about making a mistake when I would be coaching. If I was to give the wrong information to my players after the session, I'd be overthinking it, I'd be annoyed with myself, and that would continue on for the evening and possibly into the next day. What this experience did for me was that I was able to look at it in an even more positive light compared with the past, because at the end of the day, what I'd gone through could have been so much worse, and I'm lucky to be on this earth. If I compare myself to a child who just lost their parents in the war zone of Syria, or if I was to compare myself to a mother and father who had just lost their child to cancer, I'm not in comparison. I'm a very fortunate person, and what happened to me can really open my eyes to see that I can be a figure that can point out positivity to people around me, and that little things that on the grand scheme of things in the world do not matter will not affect me. After watching a documentary called The Gift, I can look at things that they talk about that relate to my situation and show that positivity can really bring the best out of situations. I want to continue doing that, and I want to see that my experience can continue allowing me to be positive, not just for myself, but as I said, for people around me that I care deeply about.